So I'm going to go over the SOAR cards with you guys. So to start off, obviously, we just got to put a name on here. I'm just going to put on Joe Schnubby. And then after I put in Joe Schnubby, I'm going to go ahead and go into their background, what kind of cadet this is. I'm just going to put either, say it's an ADO cadet. Obviously, you could have a progression cadet, so you want to put that in there. If you have a nursing student, I think you should go ahead and put that in there too, just to generalize what they're doing in our program, like who they are. Then we're going to decide if they're a squad leader or a PSG. So whatever position that you're being graded, they're being graded on, make sure you just circle that in here. And then when it comes to our regiment or / platoon, I'm just going to stick with platoon. So I'm going to put like first platoon and then put in that what squad they're in. Just that's, you want to make sure, especially if they're doing squad leader, make sure you put that in there. If they're first platoon, just put first platoon and then what squad they are in, even if they're not working in that squad. Then when it comes to that situation, it's different from the new cards, but you can see the new card to my right. If I'm filling it out, I'm going to go ahead and put in today's date. I'm just going to put in a random date and then put in what time I did it. It was 1800. You want to make sure it's the date that they're actually done with their card though. And then I want to put in which eval this is. This is eval number 1, number 2, number 3, or whatever. And then I want to put in what mission they are. So if they're a squad leader or a PSG, just put mission, semicolon, and then put 2 weeks as squad leader or PSG. If you go over to the card, you see there's a bunch of other things in this, but they're not really pertinent to what we're doing. So we're going to stick to like what their eval is, the date and time, and then the mission. You don't really need the enemy size and all this other stuff. You can include the weather if you want, but it's going to be changed throughout the entire week. And you can put in high morale or low morale if you really want to. For the most important part, we're going to get into these observations. There's multiple different types of observations that we could have done. And so I'm just going to go and go over a couple and basically start off with this. If it's a sustain, I'm going to go ahead and put in there the plus sign. That lets me know that this is going to be on my sustain section. And then from there, I need to have an actual observation, like what did I see them do? And I'm going to go ahead and just write that down here, like cadet does not whatever. So let's say that cadet pushed out info into the squad in, say, a timely manner through the group chat. And that's just like our observation of what they did. Once we put that statement in there, and we have an sustain or improve, doesn't matter, I want to make sure that we write next to that what competency or attribute that falls under. But we don't want to just put leads, achieves, or anything like that. We want to actually put the subcategory. So for this one, it's communication. And that's in the lead section, but it's specifically communication. So I'm going to put calm, and then I'm going to put parentheses around it. And if I think they met the standard, I'm going to put equals. If I think they exceeded the standard, I want to put an up arrow. Now let's say if we had something that was different, we want to put a minus. So like we want to improve, we want to put minus in the cadet. So let's stick to the same situation. Cadet failed to push info to the squad or whatever, and cadets were late to PRT. That's just something we witnessed them do. There's no true results in there. Like technically you can say that that is a result, but you're just tying it in what you saw. And so what we want to do is also write the same thing as we did with the other one. We want to put calm, and then we want to put a down arrow if we think that they didn't meet that standard. Now let's move on to our actual sustain and improve areas. In these subcategories, we don't want to put just the normal categories in here and then our attributes. We don't want to put all those in there. We want to put the actual subcategory itself. So like the first one I said was leads, and communication falls under lead. So we want to put communication down here. We don't want to put just leads. Now I know we have multiple comms on here, but we would not be able to use communication in both an improve or a sustain. So we would have to stick with a different one for either one. So just pretend that there's not two communication ones in here. So we would need another one for an improve, and we can't have two communications for both sustains as well. So we couldn't have two different bullets where they communicated well. So we want to have another new one. And so let's put an improve of cadet failed to get to PT in time, and the squad was lost in what the mission was. And when that comes to that subcategory, we can go ahead and say that's leads, and then look into leads, and we'll see that leads others probably fits that the best. So we just put LO in parentheses right there so we know what it is, and then we can put a down arrow because they failed to meet that standard. And because it's in this section, we want to put leads, others, and improve, not just leads. Now, moving on to the back, we're going to go ahead and look into the actual doctrine when it comes to the sustains and improves. So we go up here, we have positive, so we know it's sustain, and we have com and equals, so we know it's communications, and then we know it's equal to. So it meets the standard. So we go right here in the middle. We want to write that first sentence down here, verbatim, how it states it in the doctrine. And now once we've actually written that sentence down, we want to go back to our front and look at what we observed, because we want to write what we observed. And so what we observed is they communicated by sending info through the group chat. That is all we have to write for the actual observation itself. And then we want to move into what that resulted in. And that resulted in the squad being on time. You can put that in here in the front if you want to. If you notice that they were on time, that could be an observation that you could include in this. You don't really have to, but you would probably do that just so you can remember it. One other thing you want to mention is we want to make sure that it's easy to tell which this bullet means. So we want to go up here and put com in front of this sentence in parentheses so we know that this is the sustain for communications. Now when we're looking at our improve, we know it's leads others, so we want to go ahead and put that in here really quickly, LO, so we know which one it goes into, and then we want to find that doctrine. So right here is leads others, and then we want to look at the actual right because this is the developmental need. So we want to write that verbatim. And after we've done that, we want to see what our observation was, and we know that our observation basically says they showed up late for PT. So we want to write by showing up late for PT. And once we've wrote the actual observation, we need to know what the result is. And we could say that the result would be, say they resulted in squad was unaware of what the mission intent was. Now, if we're moving on to the additional comments, we can use this for a multitude of different things. And so, like, say we were using the top here and we wrote something, but we ran out of space just because it was so long. We could say have an arrow after it, and then have a number after it, and then you would want to number the sentence down here in additional comments, like put the 1 next to it, and then write the additional portion of your actual discussion portion down there. Or you could add anything you needed to in there, to regardless of like what you observed. Now let's say we want to get into our reinforce and recommendations. And in this section, you can see right here what it says, praise or corrections. And so if we look at our observations, we can see that, let's say we want to say, cadet will check leadership group chat periodically throughout the day to push out pertinent info. And that would be if, like, say we saw with the negative or the improved section where the cadet failed to push out info. So we could put that in there as like a plan of action of what they could do. And then when it comes to, let's say another one, let's say a good one, we say cadet will continue to show drive and motivation through communicating with leadership early. And that could basically be like our first one, where they communicated in a timely manner. And then when it comes to the actual grading portion, the EPCU, we want to think about it like this. Obviously, you would mean they just completely dropped the ball and gave up and didn't try to do anything like they were supposed to. And when it comes to getting that E, we need to have an actual amount of information. And one way we can do this is basically looking at how many improves and how many sustains we have. We always want to see if we can find one improve, even if they have an E. But if we're struggling to find improves and they have a bunch of sustains, and all those sustains have like up arrows and they're all different categories, we can say that's probably worth an E. But say they have a bunch of equals to and maybe like one up, that would probably be, say, a P. And if they have a couple equals to and a couple down arrows, or maybe more down arrows, and then only like one equals to, that's going to be more like your C's. And that's about it.